basically anyone at your workplace which is unwelcome and hampers productivity. So this is what sexual harassment is. So like in case of I just spoke about the Me Too movement. So it was said in the papers that many actors Kevin Spacey and producers like Harvey Weinstein used to harass actresses or other actors because they promised them that they'll give them a push in their career, and that was and their sexual advances were sort of unwelcome by the people who have complained about it and have spoken against them. So yeah, so that's what a sexual harassment basically is. And this is something that should be taken seriously, as I'll say in the next slide. What many people do here, especially in India, they are like, they just brush it under the carpet. Okay, this is something, that you should speak about. It's mostly a taboo subject, especially when it comes to anything like this in India. It's mostly encouraged to not speak about it and go about in your life, because you'll attract attention first thing, because if you complain about it. Secondly, it might hamper your career in some ways. So like it's especially for a woman in India, because like we are there are other issues at workplace like wage gaps and other, like men are mostly preferred for some jobs, things like that. So it's very difficult first place for a woman to be a part of some organization. I'm not saying this is true for all of them. And if they if they encounter such situations at their workplace, it becomes like, it's more question of like whether they should, because they already face other issues at their workplace, should they even address this. But I am here to tell you that it's not a joke. It should be addressed, and you should not feel threatened or in danger at your workplace, at least. So yeah, this is my next slide. Yes, so let's remind ourselves that women are present in our workplaces, and we are contributing to the economy, and we are contributing to the overall country's growth by being a part of the workplace, by productively being part of our workplace. So we should not be subjected to this. We are not objects. We are human beings who should be treated with basic human respect. We should be given basic human rights and not treated like props in our company. Like, okay, this is someone beautiful, let's just keep her for the aesthetics. No, it's not like that. We are contributing with our minds, with our skills, everything. We are not props in our company, and we should not be treated as such. Anyway, so the next thing that I wanted to tell you was like, how one should identify, or like, let's break it down, like what a sexual harassment can mean for you at a workplace. Let's break it down into the six W's of six W's of what, who, where, why, how, and when. So, it's sometimes it can, like people pay compliments. They like in office, they constantly, some colleague of you constantly keeps complimenting you, and it might be unwanted, but his intention might not be bad as such. So I am here to tell you, like, when you should like, you can be like, if you feel uncomfortable at any time, and you tell your colleague that, okay, this the way you're behaving is uh, not appropriate to me. So, and if he doesn't stop, then it means a sexual harassment, right? But he is doing it if he is doing it and he does not know that he is harassing you or is making you uncomfortable, and you have not communicated that to him, that isn't necessary. Like, you basically, my point is that you should basically communicate to him that he is first of all making you uncomfortable. Second of all, that like uh, if he continues that, then it is a sexual harassment. So when does at which point the innocuous thing turns into a sexual harassment? I am going to address those questions in my next slide. Yeah. So, first question is who can be a sexual harasser? It can be anyone at your workplace. Actually, it can be your employers, co-workers, clients that you interact with, customers that you might interact with. Basically, anyone that you interact with at your workplace, irrespective of hierarchy, your manager, your super boss, your juniors, anyone at your workplace, if they are making you uncomfortable in any way, that is a sexual harassment. Where it can happen at your workplace, it can happen after your after our settings, it can happen in places like office parties which are outside of your workplace. It can basically happen anywhere where like an office event is going on, or even like after even after hours, if somebody's texting you constantly, bothering you with messages, things like that. When can it happen? So it can happen anytime, like there's no defined time, like I am at my workplace, and if a person is bothering me, then and then only it is considered a sexual harassment. No, it can happen anytime. Like the first example that comes to my mind is of Harvey Weinstein, who used to call actresses to his hotel room outside of work hours, and ask for sexual favors, things like that. uh, so, how can it happen? It can happen by making sexually colored remarks. Like someone casually passing a remark on you that makes you uncomfortable, or demand a request for sexual favors, like you have to uh, one has like there are sometimes you hear, especially in Bollywood, we hear about the casting calls that you do me this sexual favor and only then you can be cast in this movie and things like that. So yeah, then there's demand for sexual favors, there's promise of preferential treatment, then there's unwanted physical or verbal conduct. Sometimes people, like some people like lightly brush their hands against you, and they do it constantly. It's intentional, and they're doing it intentionally, and it's basically unwelcome. There are instances of showing pornography at workplace, which makes you uncomfortable. Then there are making conditions of employment dependent on sexual favors, as I said previously. So there are things like that, and this is the why of this whole thing is that basically people want to show they are in power. Like we have a command over your career, you cannot move further without us. Basically psychologists have said that this is people do this because they mainly want to show that they are in power. The world basically they want to show that the world cannot move without them, which cannot be further from the truth. So this is one of the main reasons why they do this. The what of this is that what it does to you is that first of all it creates a hostile working environment. You don't feel like going to the workplace, you feel uncomfortable, you may feel depressed, you may feel all sorts of negative emotions regarding your workplace. It and that hampers the performance of an individual, because at the back of your head you're constantly like, oh my god, what am I going to be subjected to today? You don't feel like working, it hampers your performance. And of course, as I said earlier, it's a violation of human rights and dignity. People people should behave decently, with other people. It's what I feel, nobody has a right over anyone, nobody has power over anyone, especially in India where the constitution says that all of us are equal. So, it's basic human decency to, treat the other person like a human being. I mean, it cannot be, it's not more difficult than that. It's of course, as I said, it is a violation of your basic human rights. So yeah, so, and as far as violation of human rights are concerned, there's of course room for remedial as well. Anyway, so there are types of sexual harassment as well. This is not a very, you know, like a very strict uh, differentiation. It's just that, people have sort of created like a type of sexual. This is one type of sexual harassment. This is the second type. So one is the quid pro quo type of sexual harassment. What happens there is that, you are asked for sexual favors, or um, so there's quid pro quo where you are basically asked for sexual favors and to advance your career. And then there's hostile work environment, which occurs when there's unwelcome sexual harassment, and it's severe enough to alter your conditions. People, suppose your boss spreads a rumor about you that, there's, like, because you basically denied him something of this nature, and he's basically like spreading rumors about you and things like that, like or telling other people that, she's not a worthy worker or co-worker. So, these things, they hamper the work environment, they change the conditions of their work environment, they might make other people, away from you, things like that. It basically, like, it's not a very good simulating condition to work in. So these are the types of sexual harassment, that are there. Next, we are moving on to what is and what isn't sexual harassment. So as I said earlier, like a colleague giving you a simple innocuous compliment, that really cannot be a sexual harassment if you don't go and tell him about it. Like, look, I am uncomfortable about this. So, like, and if he does it once or twice, it's basically, it's not a sexual harassment. If he does it continuously, intentionally making you uncomfortable, then it is. So what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is a form of workplace discrimination, first of all. Second, it is a violation of laws. There are laws in place in India which it violates. Then it is irrelevant to what the intentions of the perpetrator are. If you are getting uncomfortable, like I said, if your colleague is giving you a compliment innocuously and that makes you uncomfortable, he might do it innocuously and he might not even realize that he's harassing you or anything. And that this is when you have to speak out. You cannot just be silent and, expect people around you to notice that, you are being sexually harassed, because they won't. It is you who is getting harassed, it's you who is getting uncomfortable, it's interaction between you, and you have to speak up. The Anyone else would not speak out for you. Anyway, and again, related to this thing, it's okay to be acceptable, is sexual harassment is not okay to be acceptable even if it does not bother other coworkers. So, there can be instances like, a particular colleague, he flirts with all of his female coworkers, uh, and it doesn't bother them. They think it's his nature. He in a good natured way, and uh, in general they don't get bothered by it, but you do, and it's not acceptable to you. It's not it makes you uncomfortable, and that is a sexual harassment. So you should speak up even if other people aren't, because we have this tendency of a herd mentality. We just tend to go with whatever the flow is. Like, okay, this person is, even this person is getting treated in the same way, but he or she is not complaining. So, why should I go and, ruin my career or, prospects of being in this company, by just complaining? Let it be, let it practice under the carpet. But, it's really not. If it's hampering your performance, if it's hampering your mental peace, you should speak out. One more thing is, what isn't sexual harassment? Like, it's not being in a consensual relationship with a coworker. So many a times what happens is, you're forced to be in a relationship with certain people because, they they are like, they promise you perks or things like that. So, you're not in a consensual relationship with them, with your bosses or your super bosses, your colleagues. That again is a sexual harassment. So, but what isn't a sexual harassment is being in a consensual relationship with a coworker. Like, I'm in a very healthy, loving relationship with my boyfriend who works in the same office as me, but that's definitely not harassment. So, you have to know what the difference is. So also, it must be dealt with immediately. It won't go away on its own, as I said. Like, one needs to speak up as and when it happens. If somebody is bothering you via text messages, via meetings, via emails, any form of workplace related communication channel, or non workplace related communication channel like Facebook, Instagram, anything, they're they are like, they are putting their noses in your personal life, harassing you with it. That's really not done, and you should uh, you should complain about it immediately. And as I said, it's really not okay even if it's done outside working hours. The workplace does not stop at after or before working hours, especially now in India, where we really don't have a concept of time at workplaces. Like, I'll give you my example. So my office, we work with clients from and people from US, Poland, Singapore, London, Australia, like many places that we interact with people. There are many places, people from places that we interacted. So there's not really a definition of time as such in my office. So so there's not like a fixed defined working hours, and I think it's true for many companies nowadays. So anytime that it happens, it's not okay. And even if it's done after like after you go home, and somebody constantly pings you on WhatsApp, on Facebook, and is bothering you, calls you, it's really not done. And it can be with anyone, like there was this one case in my college, so where like there was a PhD student who went to a professor's office, and she felt that he treated her a certain way, and she complained about it, and it was dealt with it. Although it wasn't I'm giving this example because it wasn't the intention of the professor to do so, uh, but she felt threatened, and she complained about it. She raised her voice, which was important because the professor then knew, okay, this is not an acceptable way to behave. It was not his intention to make her uncomfortable or anything, but he did. So then he rectified his behavior and made sure that he won't repeat it again. So it's important to raise your voice. It's important to speak up in such matters. Also, all employees share equal responsibility for ensuring a harassment-free workplace. It is your job. If you're working in a setting, you're working with your colleagues, it is important to take care of one another. It is everyone's responsibility to ensure a harassment-free workplace. That let's be decent human beings. Let's not harass each other in that way, and let's not get harassed in that in such a way either. So it's everyone. It's not one person's responsibility. It's not my super boss's responsibility. Oh, this is my responsibility of making a sexual harassment free workplace. No, it's not. It's everyone's responsibility. I mean, he is really not accountable for how his juniors behave, right? It is on the juniors to behave in a certain way. So the super boss cannot be be a monitor for the entire office. This is not cool. So everyone should be responsible for their own behavior, behave decently, and basically be decent human beings. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So, how do you deal with sexual harassment? I have spoken about this multiple times today, but just with uh, a more I present it in a more specific way. So there's time to act. So there's like Time's Up going on right now in Hollywood, from which I got inspired to put this picture. So yeah, how do you deal with sexual harassment if you're facing one at your workplace? What do you do? So, first of all, as I said, you tell the individual to stop the behavior immediately. Sometimes people are not aware that making you uncomfortable, but if you tell them nicely in a polite, dignified manner, if they are basically nice, decent human beings, they usually do listen to you. So if something's making uncomfortable, speak up. It's not wrong to ask for what is your right. I mean, you are entitled to it. So please, if you feel you're entitled to something, or you feel you should be treated in a certain way, please go and speak up. Please go and tell the individual to stop that behavior immediately. It does help. Second of all, what you should do is document the incident. If it goes on for a long time, your boss has asked you, oh my god, I need a sexual favor from you to promote you this year. You should document everything he has said, the date, time, place, the nature of harassment, the response, if you spoke up to him that this is not acceptable, and what his response was, if there are any other witnesses to this at your workplace, if he has harassed like other people, or other people have seen him harassing you, you should document everything. And then you should go speak to the concerned authorities at your workplace. There's usually an HR at your workplace which is supposed to handle uh, uh, concerns of this nature. So you could go speak up to your HR. If it's a colleague, you could also speak to your manager, your senior people, whoever you feel comfortable with, and whoever you think can help you at your workplace. Mostly it's HR, so you should go to the HR and report such things with the entire documentation that you have. So that's this. And then yes, the one good thing is, even the law is with you. You are supported by the law in this country, in where incidents of this nature happen. So there's a Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act 2013. I'll go through with you. I'll just give you a gist of what it is. If you want to know more about this act, if you want to get into the nitty-gritties, you could go up online, and or you could email me. I'll put my email in the chat. You could email me. I'll tell you the links of where you could look this up. So this act basically says that there should be a creation of internal complaints committee by an employer having more than 10 employees. So if it's a big company like mine, or uh, any firm that you take, and if it has more employees, you should have an internal complaint committee, a women's committee, that looks after these things. I have seen this firsthand in college, where we had a women's committee in place which looked after all the grievances of female faculty, female students, and things like that. And the complaint must be made within 3 months of the incident in writing, and then the committee shall give recommendations within reasonable time period. An appeal can be filed against the recommendation within 90 days. And in case respondent is proved guilty, the concerned authority shall set upon the recommendation within 60 days. These are just the technicalities. I'll tell you how it works. I have witnessed this firsthand in my college actually. So there was this one friend of mine, whose boyfriend was basically abusive towards her, and she was it was hampering her performance in academics, in her lab, in her projects. She was very disturbed. She was very disturbed for about 3 or 4 months, and then we encouraged her as friends. We told her to like go and complain to the women's committees, and then the complaint was made within a reasonable amount of time that the incident happened. There was proper hearing called with the boy in question, the girl in question. There were people within the community who sat down and listen to both sides of the story, and then there was a recommendation given to both the boy and the girl what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And in the I won't tell you who was found guilty and whatever, because it's a issue of a personal nature. But yeah, so proper action was taken once the complaint was filed. Uh, with my women's the complaint committee. So so one, if you're working somewhere, or if you're starting your own company, and it has more than 10 employees, it is required by the law that you have an internal complaint committee. And there are rules to forming this internal complaint committee. Anyone cannot be a part of that. So there must be someone from an NGO, some women workers. It has to follow some percentage of male members and female members. It should obviously not have someone who has had a complaint of sexual harassment registered against him or her. Things like that. These are the nitty-gritties of how a committee should be formed. So you can look it up online, or I can send you links later if you send me an email. So this is that, and yeah. So duties of an employer. What an employer should ensure. If you are an employer and you have a company, you should ensure safe working conditions and safety for all its employees. You should organize awareness programs that these things can happen, and how to deal with such complaints, and how to deal with such situations. You should also provide necessary facilities to the committee for dealing with the complaint. A person should not feel threatened, at a company. If such a thing happens with a person, he should feel comfortable enough within the company to, like escalate it to senior people or the HR. Such an environment should be made. The company should also provide assistance to the aggrieved if she files complaint under the law, Indian Penal Code, or any other law. And also, you should treat sexual harassment as a misconduct against service rules. It is things like that. This makes your employee comfortable enough to work. Like at my company, we have a great HR in place, so to deal with such situations. Touch wood, anything has not happened yet. Ours is a great company with great working conditions and a great culture. But if something to of this nature were to happen, there is a proper HR in place. I can talk to my managers about it. I can talk to my super bosses about it, and I'm sure it will be looked at seriously. It won't be brushed under the carpet by my company. So yeah, so this is that. Also, one more thing that I would like to point out is that I have always in my entire webinar I have said female employees and it's she who's harassed, but it's not true. I wanted to point this out that anyone can be sexually harassed, is irrespective of gender, whether you are male, female, transgender, or whatever you are working at. If you feel threatened, you should make a complaint. This is not just for females particularly, but this is for everyone who feels unsafe at a workplace. So even if you're a male and you feel threatened, please go and complain and raise your voice. This is in India especially, we have a taboo against like males complaining, raising complaints of this nature. Please speak out. It's not a blot on your masculinity of any sort. Please, if you feel threatened or harassed, it's your basic right to complain. You should not feel threatened, basically. Yeah, so I think my time is up. With this, I would like to end my webinar. Uh, yeah, so please let's ensure a safe working workplace, safe working environment for everyone. Yeah, so I am done now. If you have any questions, we have a 20-minute question answer rounds. If anyone has any questions, you could ask me.
Okay, so hi everyone. While we're waiting for questions, and feel free to ask any questions during this time. Just want to give a big thank you to Shipra Kumar for this amazing presentation. It was really knowledgeable and really meaningful, and we're really happy that she was able to do this. So one thing that we wanted to mention from the network, like if you all guys are registered as an NGO partner, we do have many resources available for the prevention of sexual harassment. So if you are registered on Atma Network, you go under resources, and you go under, in the dashboard, go under human resources, and then under that you go under the HR manual, and then under HR manual there will be a checklist for the prevention of sexual harassment, and this is called Prevention of Sexual Harassment Policy Checklist, and so it's available there. And I'll just, it goes through a whole holistic way of determining where your organization is in terms of policy for sexual harassment and preventing it, and seeing where you can improve and how you can make sure to really make it such a holistic approach to making sure that everybody is safe in the office. And so if you are an NGO, register with us. This is something that we are more than willing to help. If you need assistance in creating a policy, not sure where your organization is, what to do, you want to help, but you're not sure, this is a great step to take. It's available for free in our resources. And this was something that all organizations should be able to undertake, and especially after the entire presentation, what Shipra said, it's really, really important to take advantage of these resources and make sure that all the employees within the organization do feel safe. So that's under, like I said, under human resources and Atma Network, and then under HR manual, and then there's a prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace checklist. And if you need help finding it or you're not sure where it is, just email us at network@atma.org.in, and we will be more than willing to help you with that process over the phone or over email, anything that helps. But yeah, so now we will be able to go into question and answer mode for just a few minutes. So just feel free to answer it, ask over the chat bar, and Shipra can answer any of those questions.
So Garima has asked if I could be a part of your organization's complaint committee. I think the answer will be no. One, because I am not part of your organization. I work for a different company. So I'm sorry. So I don't think I can be a part of your internals complaint committee. Sorry. And name some lawyers and activists working in the area. Right now, no names pop up to my head, but I can surely look up online and send you some links if I find any. If I can give you my email address. It's so if yeah. So these are actually the nitty gritties of the internals complaint committee that I think you have to sit with someone and actually look at it, like what you can do and what should be a part of the complaint committee and what not. So yeah.
And just also to add on Garma's question, if you guys have any specific questions in terms of how to create an organization complaint committee and how to go about that process and all of these things, this is something that, obviously Atma is very passionate about the subject, and that's why we have, all these resources and for everyone to do these sorts of things. I think creating a complaint committee for your organization, like Arma said, is just a great first step. And it is great that your organization has that in place already. But in terms of, like she said, who is qualified to be on the committee? Who can we be on the, like, how can we, such questions like how can we get people to join our committee? How can we make it a substantial impact in our company? These are the sorts of questions and things that are more than willing to work with you one-on-one. And these are the questions that should be asked, actually. And it's really important. So I'm happy that this was brought up. But so in terms of like, remote coaching and with these kind of specific questions, since this is, a very specific question and obviously Shipra is not part of Credit Suisse, this is what Atma does and what we want to do. So do not hesitate to reach out to us to get these resources and help all of our organizations as a whole be safer in the workplace. So yeah, unless anybody else has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat right now. I think we'll wait like maybe a minute or two, and if not, then we'll both sign off. And thank you guys again for joining this webinar, and thank you to Shipra for such an amazing presentation. And yeah, so I'll just wait a minute or two for any questions, and if not, then we'll end the webinar.
Uh, since there are no more questions, I think we'll sign off. Uh, Thank you so much for being a good audience. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much again. And Atma, for giving me this opportunity to present my views on what I feel about this issue. Thank you very much, Atma. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.